So here are the top problems I have with college. First of all, it's the financial cost and going into debt. This is a huge problem, especially these days as the costs have risen, skyrocketed so much, and they're out of control. You can easily spend $10,000 to $50,000 per year times 4 years. You can rack up $50,000 to $100,000 to $200,000 in student debt, depending on what kind of universities you go to. Of course, the more elite universities are going to be even more expensive. So here, of course, it depends on what your financial situation is. If your parents are wealthy and they're going to pay for everything, well, then it's a little bit easier for you to decide to go to university. On the other hand, if your parents are poor and they're not going to be paying for anything, and you're basically going to have to get a bunch of loans, maybe you can get some scholarships or grants, but probably not. You're probably going to have to incur some loans and debt as well. Then it's a much more iffy proposition. For example, if right now I would have to relive my life over again and someone told me that I would have to accumulate $50,000 worth of debt once I graduate at age 24, let's say, in order to get my college education, I would say, no, that's dumb. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, because the debt will drive you so deep into wage slavery. You're going to be looking for any job. You're going to be desperate, like a desperate dog looking for, a little bit of food just to survive, just to pay your debts. And these debts from student loans, you can't even clear them with bankruptcy, at least not in America. Now, of course, if you're living in one of these cushy Scandinavian countries that I hear about, or in Northern Europe, like in Germany, I hear that supposedly they give you a free college education. That's pretty mind-blowing from my perspective as an American. That's pretty amazing. So if you've got that kind of situation going for you, and I've even heard that in Scandinavian countries, they will actually pay you a stipend to go to university. So if you have that opportunity, well, that might be a no-brainer. Because you got to consider, what's the alternative? What else are you going to do with your life? Which brings us to the second problem I have with college, and this is actually an even bigger problem than the financial problem. This is the problem of the opportunity cost. See, the 4 years you're going to invest in college, that's going to be a lot of time studying, going to courses, and you're going to be doing that basically 6 days a week for the next 4 years. Think about what else you could do with all that time. There might be much better uses of your time, especially because many of these courses and classes that you're going to be taking are going to be highly impractical and are going to be teaching you things and skills that are never going to be used by you in your actual career. So here it's really important that you think about how the actual skills and knowledge that you're gaining from the actual specific classes that you're going to be taking, whether that's going to be knowledge and skills you're going to be using on a daily basis for the next 50 years. And if it's not, then recognize it as a giant waste of time. Now, don't get me wrong. There's something very valuable about just education in general. I'm very pro-education. In fact, I'm so pro-education that my critique of university ultimately is going to come down to that it's not educational enough. Not that it's too educational. There's sort of a critique of university from above and from below. My critique is from above. I've gone through the system and I've seen the problems with the system. And to me, actually, the education that's offered in universities, even in really good ones, is low quality education. Mostly, even if you go to MIT or Caltech or whatever, mostly the education you're getting there is you're getting indoctrination, you're memorizing, you're cramming for tests. It's they're not really teaching you how to think very deeply about anything. They're also not teaching you the practical and important life skills that you need to really be successful and fulfilled in your life. There's a lot of academic mental masturbation in these universities. Now, of course, if you're going to be a physics researcher, then of course, you got to go through that. There's a lot to learn about physics, and university will teach you physics very well, or engineering or something like that. But if that's not going to be your actual career, Like, for example, I spent 2 years learning advanced physics and calculus. And now what I do, the business that I do, even when I do computer programming, I've done quite a bit of programming for web development and also as part of my game design skill set. And, I almost never used the advanced calculus and physics, even in game development. It's rarely used. So, it was a giant, giant waste of time in retrospect. So you got to really think about all of the practical and useful skills and knowledge that you could be learning versus what the university classes will be teaching you. This is a huge, huge world of difference here. I'm willing to bet for the majority of you, what the university is going to be teaching you is not going to be something you're actually going to be using ever in your life, for the most part. And actually, sometimes they're going to teach you stuff that you're going to have to unlearn. For example, you might say, well, what about English? English is something you can learn in university, and that's useful. You can use that in business and elsewhere, right? Not so much. What I actually realized after learning 4 years of advanced English, writing essays and so forth in university, when I got into the business world, I noticed that all of those English skills for academia were completely useless in business, completely useless for marketing, completely useless for sales, highly impractical, very counterproductive, very arrogant and obnoxious and pedantic, these sort of academic English skills. I had to unlearn that, learn to speak more conversationally, more casually. Even like in my recordings, in my videos, I speak very casually. I don't use a lot of complex academic terminology and so forth, even though I could. I had to unlearn that. It took me some years to unlearn that. So in a certain sense, academia is this bubble of its own. And it is possible to sort of get fooled into thinking that the academic bubble is how it is out in the real world, in the business world. And it isn't. It isn't at all. And this is one of the problems with our current university education system. So the opportunity cost is potentially enormous. You can spend the next 4 years of your life in some major, learning some major, and then you're never going to use any of those skills or any of that knowledge ever again once you graduate university. And this would be a huge waste of time and also money if you're actually paying for that. If you get it for free, okay, maybe. But it's a huge, huge waste of time. If you really took your education seriously, you could learn so many skills in 4 years, so many practical and valuable skills. And one of the biggest problems today is we have people who are graduating as English majors, history majors, philosophy majors, sociology majors, psychology majors, even physics majors, whatever, even engineering majors, but then they don't go into those fields. And then also when they get into the workplace, they realize that everything they learned had nothing to do with the actual work that they're going to be doing. Even as an engineer, many of the things they teach you in engineering school, of course they teach you some basic foundations like math and physics that you're going to need no matter what. But many of the things they teach you are not actually what you're going to be doing at your job when you're going to be doing engineering. So a lot of kids and teens are fooled into this idea that, well, I'm going to graduate university and then I'm going to have this fancy diploma and then I can use that and this degree and this all these good grades that I earned. I can somehow use that to survive in the business world. Because see, once you leave the university academia bubble, then you're in the business world. So don't tell me that, oh, Leo, I'm not interested in business. No, you're very interested in business because you're going to be in business for the rest of your life once you're out of university and academia. And even university and academia is business. It's one of the biggest businesses there is. We'll talk about that in a second. It's basically a pyramid scheme. More on that in a second. But let me finish this point that I was on. So yeah, You need skills that actually work in business. You need tangible, marketable skills that actually offer value to your employers and to your clients and customers. Not just theoretical know-how or knowledge. And so the illusion is that you think you're going to go to university, you're going to work really hard to get these good grades for 4 years, and then after that you think, okay, I've made it. Now I have all these valuable skills, right? No, you're at ground zero. You spent 4 years running like a hamster in a wheel, getting nowhere. So be careful with that trap.